the key really is to prepare. So choose your moment, think about when you're going to have this conversation, make sure that you're not going to be distracted, that the children aren't going to suddenly come home from school, your phone is off, all those kinds of things. And then in advance, I always advise people to think about what you would like your divorce to look like. So do you have children together, for example? Do you need to co-parent afterwards? This conversation can really set the tone for where you want your divorce to go. So, for example, you could say something along the lines of, this is no longer working for me. I would like to separate. I would like to make sure that we're civilized and dignified about this. And I want you to know that I'm going to make sure that that's in the front of my mind. So it's about getting a picture of what you want the divorce to look like and setting the tone right from the start. The other thing I'd say is always use I statements. So avoid saying, you always do this or you never do that. Those kind of statements are almost guaranteed, I'd say, to result in a defensive argument back, and then the whole conversation can go way off track. So own your own feelings. Try not to make assumptions about theirs and put words in their mouth. Also, I think remember that they're likely to be at a different place to you. So if you imagine a marriage as like a road that you're following together, and maybe you've been going kind of in parallel for a while, but this is a crossroads and you're going that direction and their life is going to go off in a different direction to yours. They may be at a totally different place on that journey to you. So I think that's really worth remembering, especially if it's going to be a shock to the other person. They're going to be way behind. You've already probably done some of your processing and your healing and they haven't, so they may need time to cope with the shock. I'd say also then remember that they own their reaction. So make sure that you have got some strategies in place to stop and breathe before you respond, because your responses now are going to really matter in what your divorce looks like moving forward. So stopping to breathe before you respond to anything, always a really good idea. Try not to get involved in in-depth conversations now about how you're going to split your assets or how you're going to share your time with the children. Those things are all part of the process that can follow later down the line. So stay out of those conversations. Maybe have an exit line, if you like, to say, if those things come up, this isn't for now. I understand this is a shock right now. We need to talk about those things later, and we can do that as part of the process. And then I think practice what you want to say. Your mind is really clever, so it doesn't know the difference between what you remember and what you imagine. So if you can practice what you want to say often enough, you can do it in front of a mirror or practice with a friend, a trusted friend, you'll find that when you come to say what you've got to say, it will come easily because you've practiced it already and your brain knows what it wants to say. So practice before you say it. There's nothing worse probably than going into this conversation not knowing exactly what you want to say. So those are my top tips.